Okay, so the fight is to overcome the worry, the self-doubt, and that Mercury to Saturn tends, she wasn't encouraged growing up to write or to be communicating things. She was more aware of the worries. So this is that Mercury warrior. It's the strong warrior at the same time. She's going to worry about anything responsible. I have to do this, have to be responsible for this to a fault. But Mercury is sextile the Venus and the Pluto. It has and Uranus. So it's intelligent, it's smart, it has good ideas. So the Mercury is the key to accomplishing things. She's going to have one day. She's got to write her book. She's going to be involved with. She could run an organization. She could, it's more a question of developing, because she get pulled into being responsible for so many things and having to take care of so many things. There's always not enough time. There's often not enough time below the horizon to spend just writing or building up the things that you need to do. So this is a puzzle with the Mercury. The Venus is in Virgo. It's a little fussy, but it's, again, the values are going to be tied up. It's ruled by Mercury. So it's like the moon hits Mercury. The Mercury worries. It hits the Venus. What's good enough? What's beautiful enough? What's nice enough? It's going to have a little bit, that worry will come in and affect the Venus, which is already a little bit paranoid. Oh, this has got to be nice, or what can I do, what I can't do. There's the Pluto Venus. Often when you were born, your parents had a rough time. You weren't exactly wanted. It was a challenge. There was a power struggle around, or some complex around it. So you grow up with a fear. I don't belong. There's a fear of being loved, and often the need to prove that one can be loved. But that sits in the 12th. That's a shadow. So you can see how, if her moon is bugging, like for her, getting away from home, leaving the country, leaving places, leaving the past behind, would free her mind to a certain degree, which would free up her values and the choices she would make in life. But those choices, what she's fussy about, what's beautiful, what's not beautiful, what's aesthetic, what's not, there's a fear around her and need to have to do this. It has to be this where it can't be. But this gets refined as her moon or her circumstances improve or get more self-reliant. Her thinking gets more and more clear, and her values start changing, especially if they move towards the spiritual side of things. This is a very insightful psychoanalysis, almost, like to analyze people's worries, what they want, what they don't want, what they're missing, what they have, what they don't have. Should be sensitive to those things and could communicate them. Okay, so that takes work. Well, she's in the classes, going to work into the classes. That's all moving in the right direction towards these. Having astrology, knowing how to talk to people. People always want to know about those things. There's a need to be useful, get paid for it, you get money. Like, wow, it's a perfect setup, or a very good setup for this. For the social, we've got to find something Mercury. But she could get bored really easily, and really she needs the excitement. She has to take care of the boredom. She has to have to work. She has to know what she's talking about and have the authority before she's going to communicate. Okay, so with the Venus, we see the challenge of wanting and then being afraid or confronted around whether it's being beautiful enough or being appreciated or being talented enough or expressing what one likes enough or whether one's getting what one had. Like, this evaluation is always going. It's in Virgo. It's being thought about, and the Mercury's up there high. Thinking has an effect, and the moon is affecting it too. So these three planets all have this effect on where she's coming from. Her sun doesn't. Her sun conjuncts Jupiter. It's in the 10th house. Ta-da! Here I am. So the sun rules. It's ruling its own self. The moon, the Cancer, the Venus, they're all interwoven with each other. And the moon's ruling the Mercury, the midheaven, and Mercury's ruling the Venus. So they're all tied into the moon. But the sun stands on its own with Jupiter. It doesn't need to be the teacher to show, to understand, to be noticed, to show and tell. And it's high profile, and it's fortunate. So like this is her good energy, and the more she's able rise up to commitments, regardless of family or home demands, the better it works for her. If someone's expecting her to be home, or you have to be this, or you should be doing this, those are like smothering factors. And she has to fight to get time. So, okay. So this puzzle of the Mercury sitting up high and the sun being up high like that, you see the need to accomplish, need to be accomplished, to have some respect, that has some things. And because the Saturn squares the Mercury, might be some delay in getting this, in getting the education, or getting the training, delay in doing this. It may come up more as one's older with the Saturn. But it's still sitting up very prominently in the chart. Her Mars in Scorpio, rules Scorpio. It's very strong. It is conjunct. When a planet's conjunct to nodes, we haven't talked about this much. I don't like to accentuate, because you still have to work with the planet in the sign, but often it ties it into the moon or into the family. There's some deeper connection, possibly to the mother across a lifetime, how you may be connected across a lifetime. I don't want to go further with that right now. But her Mars squares the sun. There's no other bad aspects to the sun, to the sun or to Mars. They just have the square. Well, that square to the sun to Mars it's a little harsh, a little brash. It's a need to do things. There's a fighting element here. I have to do this, I have to work to do it. And the Jupiter accentuates it. I have to do this, I have to do more, I have to do more. So she's driven to have to prove things. So the Mars, it's, when she gets pumped, she can do anything. She's really strong and will almost overdo. So she has really strong, and it's all rising, so there's a need to be assertive, physical, making things happen. And there's a really vulnerability to, am I good enough? Do I feel secure? Do I have to worry? There's a worrying side, and there's just the doer side that's there. Okay, so this puts the whole thing, when you see this, all the IC, and most of the planets are above the horizon. Mars is below. So it puts X on her values, but Neptune is tied in there. So how much can she do for family and home? It's hard. But the Scorpio, don't tell me I can't do something. I mean, the active energies there. A lot of athletes have that. A lot of dancers would have the Mars square, because they got the energy. It's not, being a dancer, not a passive thing. It's so this Mars, Jupiter, Sun thrives on rising to the occasion, rising to deal with a challenge. Okay, and that's very distinctively different than the moon that gets in its codependency. So it's almost, for her confidence, she almost needs the work or the career or the status to do something. But what else was I going to say here? Anything here? No, and we talked on the Jupiter in Leo with the Sun. That's good. So the Sun and the Jupiter, she understands, so she'll drive for it. That Jupiter works both ways. The Mars hits the Sun, the Jupiter comes back and hits the Mars. So there's a need to move towards it, to work on, to fight for one's own understanding, for one's own interpretation, and live up to it. That's there. The Saturn, Capricorn rulership, is there. Usually interpret Capricorn in the fourth house. There's a reserve, there's difficult home situations. You see the restrictions at home. One feels hemmed in, or it's like there's a worry element there, or an inhibited element on the IC. That usually gets interpreted to the fourth house, but really it's the point between the fourth and the third. It's the motivation point. And she's motivated. In one way, it would seem inhibited. Where's the Saturn? In the seventh house. So, and it's in Aries, it's a stop start. Go, stop, yes, no, in Aries in the seventh house. So the Libra on the rising, the Charmer, has the restrictions, the tendency for codependency, the tendency to feel restricted in partnerships, to have difficult stop start. It's hard to be, the ambition in Aries is not the most comfortable place for Saturn. She's motivated by this. So her ability to feel secure, to be secure, is going to be tied to it's probably tied up to the commitments in relationship and what needs to be done to maintain the security of the relationship, to pay the mortgage, pay the rent, whatever, those things. But or to fix the things for one's husband or fix one's things up. But she could be too caring of the husband, or maybe a little too excessive, that which would inhibit her projection. But it's almost like she has to take care of those things. And then once those things are in place, she gets motivated to accomplish something. And once she starts, it's going to build up really big, really good. Okay. There we go. This is just a chart, the chart with the transits around, the natal chart with the transits. Unfortunately, it puts all the aspects of everything together. So it's just you can follow it when you see each planet, but it's a little bit complicated and too many to look at. But the value of looking at this, you can see the natal chart and you can see the houses that the transits are in today. There's the Mars and Libra, opposing the Saturn. That's not really what, so it's in the first house. It just went over the ascendant. It's better energy going into the first house. There's the Sun at the end of Libra, just about to go into Scorpio and into the second house. Venus and Mercury in Scorpio in the second house. And we don't really watch these inner ones that much. The Jupiter's down in the third house of learning and studying. We're finishing this round of astrology classes. It's not her first time through the classes. She's been through them a couple of times. So she's really wanting to learn and absorbing more and more. Then the Saturn's down in the fourth house, just past the IC. So she's past her motivation, but she knows what she doesn't want. She's coming back to the Saturn, to the Saturn saying, well, no, I've got to accomplish something. I got to achieve something. I got to do something. So there's the Saturn's putting pressure from the home area, but it's really leading to her being more creative, building up skills that build up more and more so that she's more and more useful. So by the time Saturn hits ascendant, she gets her Saturn return. She's going to want to be achieving things. So from Saturn return on, 58 on till 58, so it's about 73, she's got high profile career times with Saturn above the horizon, building up to the peak, extending her influence, connecting the moon, conjuncting the Mercury, conjuncting the sun. So she has things to accomplish ahead of her. So we go over this, but we don't usually look at, you can do this. You can do our Saturn cycles. You can see a natal chart and put the Saturn graph right on top of it and figure it out. You can do it and you see the progressions right on the natal chart, from the natal chart, and you learn to think like that. But not until you've taken the time to spell out. That's why the graphs, I make the graphs and set up so that by the time you've done a few hundred of those, it's in you, it's instinct, and you immediately can see it in a chart. Until then, it wavers, you don't see it so clearly. So we build up the Saturn graph, which really, the transits of Saturn, Saturn to itself, Saturn to the Sun. When it conjuncts your Sun, you define your goals. When it opposes your Sun, you have to bide your time and wait, and you know you have to transform it. You can't do everything right away. And you adjust them at the squares, and the Saturn to the angles. When you really go through, those are the real phases and the turning points. As Saturn hits the ascendant, the identity crisis, it leads to personal growth because you have to fix the identity crisis. Then you have the crisis of personal integrity, and deep within, you have to start working to get yourself to changing how things are as it comes along, and that's the building up more skills and things you're capable of, growth and capacity. Then hits the descendant, you start growth and functioning. You start functional growth. You start having to participate in the world with the things that you have, showing that you can be useful to others and building up your status. Then you extend, then as it hits the midheaven, it goes to the ascendant for the growth and influence, where you're going to extend from your position how far you go. So this is going to go, or Saturn's going around, it's just past the IC, it's coming up, it's going to come up in 2021, it's going to oppose your Sun, and then it's going to hit her descendant by 26, and then right for the next 15 years, it's above the horizon. Her need to accomplish. She's going to be more active career-wise and outwardly in her retirement years than she was for the 15 years before that.